I'm Eric Carabell. In the latest fantasy-focused baseball podcast, Tristan Cockroft and I discuss what was learned from the baseball playoffs for fantasy purposes, prospects on display at Arizona Fall League who look great, plus many, many hash browns to answer.
I've received a number of inquiries relative to a note that I wrote to Donald on Monday. Our friendship goes back many years, and I think anybody that's spent more than 5 minutes with me knows I'm not a political person. My comments are not politically motivated. I have a friendship and a loyalty to Donald. A couple weeks ago we had Secretary of State Kerry in our locker room. It's another friend of mine. Can't imagine two people with more different political views than those two.
Coach, were you happy or annoyed that Trump read the letter?
Seattle.
But your team's always been good at keeping outside distractions on the outside. Given the nature of this presidential race,
Seattle.
Did you find it?
Seattle.
Did you find it helpful to talk to
Seattle.
your players about this? If any of your players talk to you about this, are there
Seattle.
any concerns about any locker room rancor as a result of this?
Next.
I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I?
Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. Howard Bryant, ESPN, the magazine senior columnist, Reese Waters, back for day two. Mm-hmm. So what did you think about how Bill Belichick responded to such questions?
Seattle.
That's all you have to say.
You know, what was there to say? I kind of thought that he was going to drop that one last Seattle.
I know. It seemed like he needs to punctuate it.
The comedian, you got to let him know.
No, I know.
You should have said, this is the timing. This is how you drop this.
Sometimes you let it go at the last minute.
Until the last one. What was he going to do? I mean, to me, this is exactly who Bill Belichick is. I actually thought that he said more that I thought he would say than obviously
when he explained the letter.
Explained the letter.
Yeah.
And then after that, you knew it was shutdown time.
Yeah, because we know the Patriots, they are, if anything, they are very uniform in their approach, and Tom Brady was on shortly after him, and he was asked about his political leanings because people are aware of his relationship with Donald Trump, and he pretty much played the same card, like you have relationships with lots of people, and you know, making it seem like, oh, okay, this is just what it was.
Just another day.
It's just another day, and no, I'm not answering any questions about my politics, and there's been this ongoing debate about whether or not, because of their association with our president-elect, if they should have to answer for what that relationship is. And so I guess that's just a matter of opinion.
Well, he's just repeating Seattle like it was Beetlejuice or Candyman. Like that was going to get him out of the situation if I just say it. What I will give the Patriots credit for this is that they don't ever comment much about anything.
Right.
So it's not like this is an outspoken group. Let's say Seattle, let's say Seattle, the Seahawks. They talk about a lot of stuff. If all of a sudden you ask them about this and they didn't want to say anything, that would be an aberration. This has been who they've been.
No departure.
Yeah. Well, I hate to warn you all, but we are not going to exactly stick to sports because Colin Kaepernick, who this season has refused to stand up for the national anthem in hopes of bringing awareness to social injustice, told reporters yesterday that he did not intend to vote for president. If you recall, Kaepernick was extremely critical of both presidential candidates when asked about them following the first debate, calling Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, quote, proven liars, and saying they're trying to debate who's less racist. Howard, I'll start with you. Does not voting undermine Colin Kaepernick's message?
No, I don't think that it does. And I think that part of the reason why it doesn't is because this is also part of your right. You don't have to vote. To me, what I wanted to see from Colin Kaepernick when all of this started was what his actions were going to be. He is speaking in the community. He is talking to people about educating what he feels is an uneducated populace in terms of where this country is, in terms of what we know. I also feel like maybe he's a full dissident. Maybe he's one of those people, as we've heard during this entire campaign, that thinks that the two-party system has to go and that everything has to go and the whole thing has to be rebuilt. And voting would run anathema to that. I don't know. I don't know Colin Kaepernick, but what I felt was an immediate reaction to say, well, just for him talking, for not voting, he's betrayed everything that he said and he's undermined everything he said. I think that's an overstatement. I really do. I think that there's plenty that he's done and that he can do, and maybe he doesn't want to vote. He doesn't have to.
Even though you look at the numbers, there was obviously a sharp decline with African American voters. Him voting or maybe using his platform you could argue that maybe that would have been something that would have inspired more people to vote because depending on what you read,
Sure.
but I think most people knew that there was a decided level of disinterest, especially with young millennial voters who maybe could relate to Colin Kaepernick. Do you feel that was his responsibility, Reese?
There's a lot of arguments to be made. I mean, if you open up the wide range of choices, you have not voting, you have voting for a third-party candidate, and you have voting for the way that black people have traditionally gone, and you have doing a protest vote the other side. And there's arguments to be made
voting for someone you don't want to vote for.
You know, I have friends that didn't vote. I have friends that voted third party, and you know, there's arguments to be made.
That's right.
That, you know, why would you do that? This is an important election, and you need to actually act on one of the options that's possible. If not, that's, you know, you're actually acting on one of the options that's possible by not voting or by voting third party. Personally, I find there to be absolutely no harm in voting. I don't understand what the big statement is in not voting, especially if you're doing all that you're doing in the community.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, my family is from South Carolina, and they were very at the forefront of the Brown versus Board of Education. The suit that was filed in that district in South Carolina was actually filed by my great-grandfather. So my mama would be up in my house if I didn't vote, okay? So that was something that she instilled on me at a very young age, but not everybody's that way.
Well, that's right.
You know, that wasn't put to everybody, the importance and the sacrifice that went to get the right to vote. So I could not fathom not voting, ever.
And neither could I, but let's remember, this is not a cult. Just because Colin Kaepernick doesn't vote doesn't mean that Colin Kaepernick is saying that you shouldn't vote. Maybe that message is being sent indirectly, but maybe he's also saying, here's what's right for me to go on as I feel I need to go.
Which is how the national anthem protest was for him
organically
anyway.
in the first place.
It was a
but
personal
maybe
choice.
this is how it is for you, and you feel like this is the direction that you need to take, this being voting, this being not voting, whatever it is. I just feel like to immediately just come out outright and say, well, I just don't think that he's had anything to say that has undermined him. I don't think it works.
Well, I'm glad you used the phrase, Howard, full dissident, because I do feel like he is that. Look, I realize that a lot of people, understandably so, had a problem with the fact that he immediately, because some of his other comments was that he considered them the lesser of two evils. And the fact that he was equating both of them, even though I think it's fair to say that there was probably some more disturbing things on one side than there was on the other. I think Colin Kaepernick is looking at this systematically, okay?
Absolutely.
Because he's looking at, as he calls it, a system that oppresses people of color. Hillary Clinton has been a part of that system.
And he
right?
did it with an African-American president in charge.
Correct. And so it's not as if he's saying that only one side is responsible for this, because look, she had this question to answer. Her husband had the question to answer, for example, even by folks in the Black Lives Matter movement about the 1994 crime bill that Bill Clinton put into policy that many credit for furthering mass incarceration, which disproportionately affected the communities of color. So he's looking at, okay, well, I see her just again trying to get inside his head. I get like you, I don't know him. She's a part of this system that I am kneeling against. So what do I look like going to vote and being a part of this system? A lot of people may not agree with it. They may say, hey, if you want all this change to occur, then this is kind of the first step. But maybe he doesn't see it that way.
Maybe that's the hypocrisy, is being part of this.
Correct.
Well, if you're just looking at it from a perspective of voting or not voting, if you take the candidates off the board for a moment, I find voting in and of itself to be one of the least used weapons that black people have, you know, utilized at their disposal going forward to better their conditions, and that I think needs
especially
to change.
when it's being made hard for you to vote.
Yes.
I don't think this is the right move for Colin Kaepernick. I don't think it was the right move for me, which is why I voted.
Right.
However, for me to say that he's wrong, I can't say that.
Well, it's hard for me to say that, too, because I know a lot of people who feel like him. You mentioned the voter suppression. I mean, there's a long history of that, and we don't even have to look into history. Look at some of the strange things that were happening in North Carolina leading up to this election, and certainly what occurred on Election Day. And so when some people, when they see those type of things, they feel like the system is against them. So you know what? Instead of trying to work within the parameters of the system, I'm going to create my own system. And maybe Colin Kaepernick's system is going to the grassroots level. It's talking to young African-American kids, young kids of color, and saying, hey, you have a right, as he had passed out the T-shirts, you have a right to be educated, you have a right to be free, all these other things. Maybe he feels like that's his mission. So while I understand what you said, Reese, and I voted as well, and I voted in part because my mother drilled into me from the word go, people died for this right. So you have to go there, even if you don't love all the choices,
100%.
You are disrespecting them by not going in there to vote. I can't make that choice for everybody. And as we know, part of the freedoms of this country is you have the right to do something and the right to not do something.
I would absolutely say that the work that Colin Kaepernick has put into the community is much more valuable than his one vote would ever be. But if you're looking at it and you're saying, if you're looking at all the energy that's gone into vote suppression, if you look at whether it be machinery malfunction, whether it be redistricting, whether it be putting
reducing
felonies
the number
on
of polling
people,
places,
and
whatever the case may be,
cutting early voting.
if you look at all the energy that goes into suppressing the vote, I have a hard time looking at that and saying, what I'm going to do is to play into that by actively not voting myself.
Agreed.
Understand.
And but the one thing about what Colin has done, though, is that if you look at what's happened this entire election, there are a lot of people who are saying the same thing he's saying. They just did it in a different way.
Very true. All right, moving on to actual sports. According to our Ed Werder, whether or not Tony Romo dresses or plays against the Steelers this weekend is no longer a medical decision, but a coaching decision. A source told Werder that Romo has recovered from the compression fracture in his back, and he's capable of taking hits and is fully ready to play. Now, Jerry Jones said yesterday that deciding on Romo or rookie sensation Dak Prescott is a problem that won't totally be sorted out. We'll play it by ear, Jerry said.
Hang with him, coach.
Right, exactly. Reese, I'll start with you, though. Has Tony Romo, has he earned the right to get his job back?
I mean, in the last 2 full seasons, okay, Tony Romo is 33-11. And without Tony Romo coming into this season, they're 1-13. Even if you include their 7-1 start, they're 8-14. It terrifies me that they'll bring back Tony Romo. Please don't bring back Tony Romo.
You're saying is this reverse psychology? You're being truthful.
You're saying this is enemy camp.
The numbers
right?
are outrageous. I don't see how we would be able to stop a Cowboys juggernaut if you bring back one of the greatest quarterbacks.
Mr.
Washington,
unbelievable
football team. Hey, the age-old question has always been, do you lose your job when you're injured? And that question has changed over time, and especially in a money game, and especially in a bit more of a ruthless game now. Drew Bledsoe can tell you a lot about that. Mm-hmm. You do lose your job today. Today, that placeholder is not there. Even if you're Tony Romo and you've earned the right, look at what I did. Do I lose my job? And I think that one of the big differences in this situation is that, unlike the Bledsoe-Brady situation, you had Bill Belichick didn't really want Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah, he was already sort of in his doghouse.
It was time to go. You knew
Correct.
Transition was coming. But in this one, you can still make an argument that Tony Romo can get you where Dak Prescott can get you. And that's going to be a hard one. And for Jerry Jones to just leave it on Jason Garrett, I think that's kind of funny.
What do we think he really is? Because we know Jerry Jones, it's not like he's foreign to meddling in these kind of affairs. Look, for me, I don't know. When Tony Romo was healthy, yes, I can say he was a better player than Dak Prescott. I don't know what he looks like now. Certainly, Bryant has said that he's out there firing missiles. By all reports, he looks great. And I guess it just depends on your level of comfort with installing him after they're on a roll, 7 wins in a row. Because this, to me,
is the thing that could really throw it upside down.
Exactly.
Go south right
this
now.
To me is not about who's a better player. All right, this is not a barroom argument. This is about who is a better fit right now at this late juncture in the season for this team, and it's Dak Prescott.
That's right. And also, let's put this on the table. You're the Dallas Cowboys, right? You haven't been to the Super Bowl in 21 years. You haven't been a name, really, outside of guys fighting on the sidelines and being a soap opera in a really long time. And for the first time, probably since the late 80s, early 90s, you've got a young quarterback, you've got young receiver, you've got a young running back. And you've got something that you're building, and you're actually kind of a likable team, and people are kind of rooting for you a little bit because suddenly the star is back and they're doing it the right way.
That's the problem.
Why were you gonna? Why you don't have that problem? Right?
That's the problem.
Why would you mess that up right now by making a quarterback change?
Yeah, and I guess whenever in my personal life or even professional life, when I have a tough decision, I think about what is the decision I can live with, and let's say Tony Romo comes in and they decide, you know what, Dak, thank you for your service. Appreciate everything you've done, but it's time for you to sit down. We're bringing Tony back. What if they lose? Okay? Or what if this is not as easy of an install as we think it is? And while, yes, technically you can certainly go back to Dak Prescott, which is why some people say, oh, it's low risk, low reward. But you messed something up there, okay? And who's to say you're going to get it back? And who's to say that if there is some negative fallout for you putting Tony Romo back in there, that you're not going to regret it? And to me, if you're Tony Romo, and look, I know this is like a pie in the sky dream, and you see how this team is rolling, to some degree, you probably are in a better position to not come in unless the wheels fall out. Because how much blame has Tony Romo gotten over the years?
Oh, absolutely.
Because part of the reason, sort of, figuratively, why his back is probably having problems because he's carried the Cowboys for a long time with no reward.
Absolutely. When I have a tough decision, I always ask myself, how am I feeling at midnight? And at midnight, the Dallas Cowboys close their eyes and they think about Dak Prescott. They think about that young thing with the unlimited ceiling, okay? They're not thinking about going back to the old situation that you all done been through,
I feel like it's a relationship analogy here. What are you trying to say?
Been through some things.
No, it just feels like, okay, you just at least go with it until it's gone. And Tony Romo's a vet. He understands his business. Look at how he got his job.
Well, I was going to say, does Tony Romo also have a responsibility? I don't think he does, but is there a tiny responsibility for him to say, look, you got a good thing going, you shouldn't mess this up?
And as an opponent of the Dallas Cowboys, I feel like no matter how far in front of me they are, if Tony Romo's their quarterback, they're coming back. They're coming back to me. I don't feel like they're in any way out of sight if Tony Romo is their quarterback. Dak Prescott is already off the reservation as far as how we project rookie quarterbacks to be. The best you can feel about it is at some point he'll hit some growing pains, but as I've said, he's already outperformed any rookie we've ever seen, so that doesn't even feel that good. I'm much more scared of that team moving forward with Dak Prescott.
College football lives here. It's a huge showdown in the Pac-12 Saturday night. USC, winners of 5 straight, heads to Seattle to face undefeated Washington.
10, touchdown USC. 72 yards, the big play strike.
The Huskies are desperate to prove themselves, and a win against USC will do just that. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
So the NFL gave us all too familiar "my bad" after Richard Sherman jumped off sides and wiped out kicker Dan Carpenter, with league officiating VP Dean Blandino admitting Sherman should have drawn an unnecessary roughing flag. Now Sherman's hit on Carpenter did not sit well with Dan Carpenter's wife Kayla, who called Sherman an animal in a tweet, and then for good measure said he should be castrated, and then tweeted a pic of the castration device, which you see there, used on animals. Sherman tweeted her with the crying, laughing emojis and told her to have a great day. However, Sherman told Ed Werder, "It's amazing how comfortable she is saying that." Say that. Howard, are you impressed with how Richard Sherman responded?
I am impressed with his restraint. Certainly, because I think that it was kind of uncalled for. I mean, what is this, John Tortorella as well, calling people animals? I mean, what is going on here? I mean, this is the type of stuff where obviously at first glance you watch the game and it looked like her husband might have been hurt. Because it looked pretty bad. And then he got back up and everything was fine.
Miraculously. Funny how that happened.
Soccer spray.
Yeah.
You get a little magic spray right there. But I thought it was uncalled for. I thought it was kind of childish and kind of dumb. But also, I think it was good of Richard Sherman to sort of laugh it off, let it go, move forward. Do we really need a news cycle out of this?
No.
No, I think he did the right thing in terms of not reacting angrily at the time to the tweet, but I would also include the comment that he made to Ed Werder, because I would have been disappointed if he would have just let her off with the laughing emoji, thank you, have a nice day. I think it warranted a more comment than that.
Something else.
Which was what he gave Ed Werder, so I appreciated that. What I will say also, as far as she's concerned, that tweet's still up. I've seen no comment, no acknowledgement, no apologies. So we talked about this yesterday on the show, and there were a ton of people on social media coming to try and make excuses why it's not racist, apologize, that kind of thing. She said absolutely nothing and asked for absolutely none of the people to come make some sense or try and explain away her comments.
Well, because here, I'm glad Richard Sherman tagged that too, as you said, and said what he did to Ed Werder, because there was a lot of code.
Well, it's the word comfort that makes it. That made it such a key response for him. Right.
It's like there was a lot of code in that tweet. And people accused me after my comments yesterday of trying to, impart race where there wasn't any. And we all know this. It's a long-standing, very tried and true tradition of comparing black people to animals, all right? And especially black athletes. That is such an easy coded trigger, especially black male athletes. And do I even need to get into the history of castration when it comes to black men? Long, tried, true. If you don't know, pick up a book. That's your fault. So I say all that to say is that I do feel like for her to take it that far, and his response I thought was perfect. Because really there's no upside in him going back to her.
No, and if you need to be told about this history, it shows you once again where we are in this moment in time, where people know virtually nothing about one another, or they feel like they can do and say whatever they want. And any time that there's some sort of historical context to it, then you're the problem. You're the one creating the issue. When actually, no, you're the problem because you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And then and I'm sure Richard Sherman knows what he's talking about on this. So therefore, it's completely irresponsible on her part to have that up and to not even take the time necessarily to recognize, oh, maybe I messed up in a way that I didn't think I messed up.
Right. But here's the other part of it, too, Howard. I would say this. If she's not sorry, then she's not sorry. It's her right to certainly feel that way. She felt like he was trying to intentionally injure her husband. And I'm not in the mode of, especially with things like this, of making people apologize for something they truly feel.
She's not sorry about it, then so be it.
Yep, that's it.
True. And I'm sure Richard Sherman's not sorry for knocking her husband out. So there it goes.
True.
Exactly. Sticking with this same controversial game, Rex Ryan and Richard Sherman, they had some stares and exchanged some unpleasantries during the Seahawks' controversial win over the Bills. And Ryan said afterward he told Sherman he was too good of a player to behave that way. Meanwhile, Pete Carroll told Rex, mind your business.
What do you make of Rex's response?
I just wish he'd coach his own team. That's it. Just coach your own guys.
Well, as a matter of fact, I do coach my own guys. So, and I'm proud of the team that I coach. We haven't had the results that we shoot for every time, but I'm proud of this group. And I have no problem. I do coach my own guys. And, but I forgot. I guess I should have asked Pete. When somebody asked me a question about one of his players, I should have asked Pete about the appropriate response, I guess.
So, Reese, who you got? Who you with, Rex Ryan or Pete Carroll?
I think I'm definitely with Pete Carroll on this one because Rex Ryan coaches his own guys, but not well. That's why they got flags all the time. That's why they always in trouble.
Right.
They need some more
coach
coaching.
Keeps giving up so many points.
That's what I'm saying. Look. This is not an actual feud. These coaches have only played once before, which was a Seattle win back in 2012. There'll be another problem next week and the week after that, probably with the Bills. I'm sure Rex Ryan will be feuding with other coaches. Pete Carroll hadn't really gotten involved in too much of this stuff. I don't really necessarily blame either guy. Rex Ryan was getting his kickers back and Pete Carroll was getting his star defensive backs back, and that's what I expect them to do. This will all go out in the wash.
Well, exactly. Well, you're not going to have a war of words between Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick when they play next week, right? Seattle. I actually like Rex on this. I'm with Pete, But I just love Rex because Rex is always talking.
Well, here's
Rex is always fun.
He is, but I would think that somebody who talks as much trash as he does could understand Richard Sherman and how he responded. And look, if Rex Ryan wants to be mad at anybody, he needs to be mad at the officials. Because they are the one that botched this, let this get out of hand. I said it yesterday when Reese and I discussed it. Don't get mad at Richard Sherman because he knows the rules better than the officials. All right? They didn't blow the play dead. He lunged for the ball. They missed the opportunity to give him a personal foul. They've said, my bad, that was their mistake. Richard Sherman knew that I can't let him get this kickoff because this is a free play.
That's right.
And that's what he did.
And also, if Richard Sherman happened to be a free agent, I think Rex wouldn't mind having
That's what's so funny about
it.
I'm sure you guys have seen this before, like outside of sports. You ever seen two people argue who are actually perfect for each other?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
See what I'm saying? That's essentially what this...
I fought with all mine in the beginning. Seriously.
You seem kind of feisty.
I'm Andy Katz from ESPN, along with my co-host Seth Greenberg. On courtside with Katz and Coach G, we'll be joined by Arizona head coach Sean Miller and Indiana head coach Tom Crean in advance of the Armed Forces Classic in Honolulu.
All right, let's go hard in the paint, gentlemen. My man, Karl Anthony Towns, for you out there, he just yammed on Brook Lopez in Brooklyn last night. Although Brook, who had a team high 26 points. The Nets also got the last laugh in defeating.
They won the game.
Yeah, they won the game.
He posted me, but we won the game.
Yep, he got the poster, but they won the game. So I get it. Meanwhile, however, Joel Embiid is averaging 17.6 points, 6.8 rebounds, and 2.6 blocks per game in just 21.4 minutes per game. So, fate of humanity on the line. Howard, I'm going to start with you. Which young big would you take?
Too soon.
Cat or Embiid?
Gotta be Cat. Too soon.
Too soon for Embiid?
Of course.
Okay.
Healthy. You can't. One is the 76ers. Two.
See, that's just messed up.
It's only right.
That's true.
It's only right.
Okay.
One's got a longer track record. Karl Anthony Towns is going to be a top 10 player. Yep. He's a very, very good basketball player with a track record where you can look at him and say, okay, I can see this and he can stay healthy. Other guy, no.
All right, Reese?
Oh, it's Karl Anthony Towns all day, as he mentioned, because he has a longer track record. But I would add the fact that Joel Embiid is a loose cannon. He's on Twitter in sensitive moments.
Look, don't say it yet. We're going to show him at the end
all
of the
right, cool.
All right,
that can go left at any time.
That's just personality. All right, in other NBA action, the Hawks handed the Cavs their first loss of the season last night. Career high 28 points from Dennis Schroeder as Atlanta improved to 5-2 in the season. Now the Hawks, they snapped an 11-game losing streak to the Cavs, which included, of course, that unfortunate playoff sweep in the last two seasons. Now, I don't know. I know it's early in the NBA season, but what the hey, right? Is this just one game in November, Reese? Or the Hawks, are they kind of a threat to the Cavs?
The Hawks ain't been legitimate since Dominique left.
See,
okay?
at Reese Waters.
The last time you could get the carefree curl in the back with the flat top, that was the last time that the Hawks were a legitimate threat. Ain't nobody worried about them. Even in Atlanta. And I went there. Remember, I went there to investigate Falcons fans. I went there. They don't even rock with the Hawks in Atlanta.
So is that what your crack reporting found out?
That's what I found out. Okay. I will not be going back. I'm not invited back at Hartsfield.
Shocking how that works.
Even do the airport.
Okay, Howard, what do you think?
Cavaliers were on a pace to go 82-0.
And they messed it up.
Pace.
They messed it up, right?
And they all got messed up because of this juggernaut in the Atlanta Hawks. Come on. We got 76 games left. I mean, it's a nice win.
Yeah.
It's a good win. We're going to put a little wager on right now. What happens when Cleveland goes down there?
I like my money a little bit too much.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, now, if they go down there and Atlanta takes them out at home as well, and now they're 2-0 going into the season, maybe we can talk about this in January.
Okay, here's what I do like about what I saw is that, granted, it took 11 games. Okay,
Nobody beats me 12 straight.
That's right. They got fed up, Howard. Give them their credit. They said enough is enough. The Cavs will not take us down at this right now. I mean, look, a lot of things went wrong for the Cavs personally, and Tyronn Lue, he alluded to this after the game. I don't think they took them real seriously, and I can't say I blame them after you beating somebody 11 straight.
I was out campaigning too. No, that didn't turn up right.
And let's be honest, the Hawks, the best opportunity they had was 2 seasons ago when they had that juggernaut. Okay, when they had that team with Teague and they had Horford there, and you had guys that were hitting from the outside. Fabo Cephalosha, of course, was injured for that.
Yeah, say some thought that was really,
their best.
That
team.
was their best team, and that was a huge factor in them not going further.
The way that team went out, though, that can't help but stick in your mind. You have a lot of that same core. There's still, obviously, they brought in Dwight Howard, but I don't think that helps you
because he's
in the locker room. Okay? I don't think that helps you mentally prepare for the Cleveland Cavaliers, so they don't got to worry about nothing.
You say one thing.
Ain't worry about nothing.
Say one thing. For Atlanta, really good win.
Okay,
because
for the Cavs, it was Tuesday.
Exactly.
Yeah, our fault.
Well, for the NBA, really good win because you keep people going to the Hawks games
try to milk
for a couple more.
And
act like it means something.
It's supposedly non-interesting NBA season because the Warriors are, such a
Tim
super
Duncan's
team.
gone.
Of course. More NBA. So one day after allowing 65 first-half points in a home loss to the Jazz, the Knicks have put assistant coach Kurt Rambis in charge of the league's worst defense. Fresh tactics. It's not as if the Knicks are happy with the other side of the ball either, as Phil Jackson is reportedly frustrated because he wants more triangle. When asked about the change, Carmelo responded, "It is what it is, and we got to buy into that and embrace that."
Bringing endorsement.
Right? So after 6 games, Knicks 2-4. Howard, is this a panic move that they have put Kurt Rambis in charge of the defense?
Who put the P in panic, right? I mean, Phil. 6 games. This is how you instill confidence, and this is how you be a general. Mm-hmm. 6 games, you start changing it up, and especially in a team after you made the acquisitions that you made that you were supposed to be a playoff contender, and yet after 6 games you're panicking. And what is this? The NFL that now you've got offensive and defensive coordinators. I know the Celtics did it with Tom Thibodeau with Doc, and Dick Harter did it as well with Bird in Indiana, but. This strikes me as overdoing it. It strikes me as even when I think about Phil Jackson, I'm thinking, did you even hire the guy you really want?
Right.
So all of it seems to me to feel like the Knicks aren't even comfortable with themselves right now, and it's way too early to even make that determination.
Well, when I first heard about this, I was concerned because when you think of Kurt Rambis, what do you think about? Getting clothesline from the side.
Right.
That's not the dude you want to put.
The greatest move ever for Boston.
But that's not the dude you want to put in charge of defense. Is the dude that got clothesline from behind.
Well, hell, his other choice was Jerry Seasting. Jerry Seasting Ralph Sampson kicked him in the playoffs.
But then I looked at the numbers, okay, last year.
Research,
numbers.
Last year,
when he was interim coach, okay, they were 15th in defensive efficiency and 9th in points allowed. And this was with Carmelo Anthony, okay, with Porzingis. This was with a squad that was not built with defense in mind at all. And despite the fact that he's 100 games under 500 as a head coach, he's had to deal with the Sebastian Telfairs and the Luke Rittenhauers and the Darko Milicics of the world. So give Kurt a chance. If all of a sudden your players start getting clothesline from the side, then you let them go.
It says everything to me that not only Carmelo's lukewarm comments, but also Derrick Rose, when talking about the triangle. See,
what's with Phil in the triangle?
I'm saying, man,
it's gotta stop.
It's like, dude, you don't have Jordan, you don't have Kobe, and you don't have Shaq. Let it go. L.I.G. all right? You have who you have. And if your players are telling you we're not comfortable running this, we don't fully understand it, we don't like it, their enthusiasm about this offense matters more than your love affair with it.
Which, by the way, every single bit of personnel he's had that didn't include Kobe, Shaq, or Michael didn't play the triangle. I mean, the triangle, even in of itself, we don't even know if it's a great system or not because, 1, nobody else uses it, and 2, you had Michael or Kobe to bail it out.
Wait a minute. That's an indictment of the youth of America today
that
they don't understand the triangle. Come on. This is the daggone triangle right here. We play a triangle in my rec league. These kids don't know nothing.
See, look at you using that as a get off my lawn moment. Hey, Reese, it's time for you to put to work.
Is it now?
Yeah,
okay.
So you're not just here for your pretty face.
No, well, you know what? I'm just going to let them.
According to the Wall Street Journal, the NCAA will not use its executive authority to impose sanctions against Baylor for its sexual assault scandal, the same way it did against Penn State after the Jerry Sandusky sexual abuse allegations, or should I say conviction. For a reference point, the initial sanctions against Penn State included 5 years probation, 4-year postseason ban, vacating 112 wins, and a $60 million fine. Now, 2 years ago, the NCAA, of course, rescinded the postseason ban, restored some scholarships, recredited Penn State and Joe Paterno with the 112 victories. Howard, I'll start with you. Is the NCAA, by choosing not to do the same thing with Baylor as it did with Penn State, are they kind of punking out?
Kind of punking out, or are they punking out? I mean, they're completely punking out. And one of the reasons why they are is because they don't have any courage. And I think that one of the things that you want to do when you're going to lay the hammer on somebody, you have to be decisive. You got to be decisive, and on top of being decisive, you have to know that what you're going to do is going to stick. And by having to backtrack on Penn State, I think they've got complete cold feet right now because they don't want to be in an embarrassing situation where they come out heavy on Baylor, let Baylor have it, and then have to backtrack again. And I think it's just a sign of weakness. And I think that one of the messages that it sends as well is that what's taking place at Baylor isn't really necessarily, I'm going to say worthy of our attention, but we don't know what to do. And because we don't know what to do, and because we don't know if what we think we should do is going to hold, let's do nothing.
To me, it's pretty cut and dry. If you have a child that's decided that something is more important than handling their responsibilities, for me, it's watching TV. I love to watch TV. So that was the thing my parents would take away if I didn't do my homework, if I misbehaved, if I got some sort of progress report or discipline notice from work. They would take away TV because that was the thing I thought was most important. Penn State decided that football was more important than pursuing those allegations. Baylor decided that football was more important than pursuing those allegations. You have to take football away. None of this other nonsense, any of this ancillary punishment
away from
means
Penn State.
nothing. You have to take football away because they have to understand. And Pete, you talk out of one side of your mouth and you say these are student athletes, okay? We're giving them an education. This always comes up when we talk about paying players. We're giving them an education. They're getting a chance to experience college life and develop as human beings. You talk out of that side of your mouth, but in this instance, it's football all the time. It's clear where football ranks in terms of the hierarchy of priorities there because you let all this other stuff go. And this is not me and you. This is not a host of a sports program or a podcast. These are people whose job it is to develop young people.
That's right.
So you should be even more severe in your punishment.
Unless, of course, you're going to conclude that football is also more important to you. And that's the other piece of this, is that when you're looking at the NCAA, they try to send the message that they're some sort of watchdog or some sort of overseer of the game. They're part of this. They're as conflicted as Baylor or as Penn State. They're not some separate entity that is going to provide some sort of sanction or discipline. And they're part of, they're the machine.
And if there was any thought of being at all lenient, Baylor's been defiant. The Baylor community has been defiant.
Just like the Penn State
community. Absolutely.
Coach Art Brawl's T-shirts that they were wearing and some of the things they've done. Look, I'm actually shockingly a little torn about this, only from this perspective. I mean, you guys bring up valid and brilliant points. What is the NCAA, as you said, it does have an educational mission as part of it. But the issue, not just here, but also with Penn State, it's so much bigger than them. This is a culture of sexual violence that not only went on with Baylor and the football team, but the entire campus, much like many campuses across the country.
What happened to Quentin Daly 35 years ago with USF? They lost their program. Basketball team, they lost their program for years. SMU lost their program. There's precedent for actually doing something severe like that when you have a culture, when you have a full-blown culture where you're just looking at this and you say, listen, we have no choice, but they choose not to go in that direction.
All right, guys, you know how we end this show. We got 5 DTMs for you, and we start today's countdown with a Seahawks fan taunting a Bills coach and then getting owned. Oh, girl was like, not today, Satan. Bill's special teams quality coach, Catherine Smith, the NFL's first full-time female assistant, has to deal with being called a waitress.
That's reason enough to suspend personalized jerseys for the season. He ruined it.
Our house.
He ruined it. It's over.
Yeah.
Somebody else's house.
Yeah, right. And I hope they're not going back together because my man might be on the couch for quite a long time. All right, we got some not safe for work material for you from the Grizzlies mascot. Got his magic mic on, doing a striptease. Again, we too broke to pay for the music, but this is the pony. See, we got kids watching this time of day. But where them dollars at? And bands will make it dance. Oh, is that a
I like it. Hey, real quick, where's Genuine from? PG PG County America,
that's
baby.
right. Okay.
That's where we like to get down.
Right.
You know, nothing but a little genuine Marvin Gaye. That's what we do.
One of the dopest S curls in R&B history.
Absolutely. Hey, if you can get so late, and Maya is on.
All right, so the Big Ten, this is my rant for today. They announced starting in 2017, Big Ten will play 6 primetime games on Fridays. Michigan State is one. This is whack, all right? Because my larger point has nothing to do with the fact that Michigan State is playing in one of these whack games. It has everything to do with when is enough enough? Right?
When you have Tuesday night and Wednesday night football, that's when it's enough.
Exactly.
What does 24/7 mean to you?
This was supposed to be a showcase for Maryland and Indiana and Illinois, but Michigan State taking all the Friday night games. Of course y'all did.
You know what?
Of course y'all did.
Fade to black on him. Ric Flair, he took a photo of his presidential vote, and he wanted to make America woo again. And so he wrote himself in on the ballot. I ain't mad at you.
I don't know what state he's in, but aren't election selfies illegal?
I'm surprised he didn't write in Halle Berry. He need to make that right.
See,
he need to make that right. That's all I'm saying.
Once again,
Build a
who
bridge.
knows? Who
Build a
knows?
bridge.
Look, it was, 10, 11,000 people voted for Harambe. So
I said,
see, don't even say it. Speaking of the presidential race, Meta World Peace, he offered these hot takes if he were president. He said, I would have my Secretary of Defense be Ben Wallace. Makes sense. He would allow relationship swaps, but not divorce.
Credit default swaps.
I
got those.
He said, I wish I had a rewind button on my life. Instead of running in the stands in Detroit, I would have shoulder twerked backwards to the locker room. Meta, you sound like you could be a brilliant politician.
2020.
and no, I'm just saying, you can't rule it out at this point.
Well, he's not 30. He'll be 30. How old is he?
I'm not sure.
He gotta be 35.
But he missed a big opportunity. If I were president, first thing you got to do, day after Super Bowl, national holiday for everybody.
Why would you? I did not say sticks out for Harambe. How they gonna vote for him? He's gorilla.
The North Carolina Tar Heels head to Durham to face their fiercest rivals, the Duke Blue Devils. Touchdown! Coverage begins Thursday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Presented by Dr. Pepper.